Hi everybody, Tony again with Shinsho Yoga, and today we're going to work on Chaturanga Dandasana, or four-limb staff pose. This is more of an intermediate level to slightly advanced, I guess you could say, level posture. It's something that I've often seen that can be very challenging for people in classes. Men and women, although women do have more of a challenge with this than generally men do, just because it requires a certain amount of upper body strength in the way men and women are built, physically different. Men generally are going to have more upper body strength. So, I'm not saying that men don't struggle with this. They do. Often when I see men struggling with it, doing it wrong, they do it like a push-up. And Chaturanga Dandasana is not a push-up. Chaturanga Dandasana is four-limb staff pose. Right? What it is a, for lack of a better term, a low plank. Right? When you see people come into this posture, often you will see them with elbows flared out, lowering down or flopping into the posture. It is much like a plank, and if you haven't seen the video on plank, I have one of those. But it's down where you're only about halfway off the ground of the distance in the arms to the shoulder. It is not a push-up, right? And the structure of the pose is what supports you in this, right? So although it does require a certain amount of openness in the shoulders, right, and a certain amount of core strength and a certain amount of upper body strength, it is primarily the structure that supports you in this. If you do this properly, although again, you will need some core strength and you will need some upper body strength, if you do it properly, it'll be primarily being the structure that supports you when you do this, which will make the posture that much easier. Not an easy posture, especially in a flow, right? When your teacher, especially sun salutation A's or sun B's, and your teacher's having you run through the vinyasa there, and I can be, if you're tired or worn out and you have to all of a sudden do this low plank, it's very hard. But if you do it properly with the structure, you should be in a much better position when doing this. Okay? So, without me talking much more about it, let's get into it because there's a lot to demonstrate. So I am going to come into Chaturanga Dandasana how I would come into knees, chest, and chin, and that is I'm going to transition from downward facing dog to plank to Chaturanga. I'll actually probably a couple times here go through the full sun salutation A and roll into up dog, back to down dog. But that's how I'm going to come into it. So coming in from downward facing dog. On my inhale, I'm going to roll forward to the plank and I'm going to line my hands up here. I want my arms in line here, my hands in line with my shoulders, right? In that nice firm plank position. And then with your exhale, keeping the elbows tight into the body, you're going to lower down halfway and hold. I rolled through a bit of a vinyasa there, but for Chaturanga, low plank, hands in line with shoulders. In my other videos, I talk about how in our plank position, we want the hands in line with the shoulders. This specifically will come into play here in Chaturanga Dandasana, because as you lower, you want this. You don't want this, right? It's not a push-up. Push-ups, we bring the hands out here. We're looking to work the shoulders or work the chest muscle, build up all of this, build muscle there, right? This is a low plank. So bring the hands in. Not here, here. So as you lower, watch the elbows here. they come into my side body. This is the structure that supports you in the posture, right? If you're out here, right, trying to lower down, all of the energy is shooting out the elbows, right? And you're trying to completely hold yourself up by your shoulders, right? And chest muscle, and then tightening up the core. Where, if you do this, you're using shoulder and chest muscle, but it's to maintain the structure. The core is holding you, because again, this is a low plank, right? So the core is holding you tight, the structure is holding you up. The muscle you need is to maintain the structure and not hold you up. It's just maintaining the structure. And you lower down halfway. Right? That's with Chaturanga what you want to do is lower halfway. Now, halfway is a challenge. There's no yardstick here that as you lower and your teacher's going to come by and go, that's only a third of the way. Let's go an inch more. You're really, what you're doing that halfway is pulling these in. Pulling the elbows into the body, up along the side body, so the side body becomes somewhat of a shelf. This is what holds you up here, along here. If your elbows are out here, you're just dumping all into the shoulder, into the back, trying to hold yourself up. Here. Not here, right? Not here. Here. Right? And when we lower with control. You don't want to flop into this. Don't just flop your hips down, and don't pike. Much as like in plank, as I talk in my video about plank, you're not piking out into it like this and then flopping the hip down, right? You want, if you're this way and then you're halfway. This way, then halfway. You don't want to be flopped here. You don't want to be piked up. You want to be here and then halfway. And again, it's this action that is going to keep you in the structure properly, right? So again, Chaturanga Dandasana. I am going to come from downward facing dog. So in my down dog, again, I have to rotate my hands out. I have a little bit of width there for my shoulders so I can get the height in the hip. I'm going to roll forward with the inhale for my plank. I adjust my hands so they come in line with the shoulders, coming into that plank, that suspension bridge, right? Not flopping in like this, not piked out, straight like a pencil, eyes lifted. With the exhale, pull those elbows tight into the body, lower halfway. Breathe. It's a challenging posture because it does require strength. Where you will run into problems with openness is going to be wrists and shoulder, right? So if this is kind of, like this, you're going to have some issues with Chaturanga Dandasana. If you have wrist issues, it's probably going to be challenging. Right? But if you do the structure properly on this, it will make it that much more easy as this pose gets, to do. Again, elbows in, hands in line with shoulders, lower, create this shelf. Don't pike out, don't flop. Lower with control. Hold. Low plank. Breathe. It's the most important part. Right. Rolling forward to that plank. Don't hold the breath. And when you're lowered, if your teacher's having you hold that plank, I had my teacher one time, the first class I went to, he had us holding, he'd lower down 80%, trust me. Lower down 60%, trust me, and you're just holding and shaking. Breathe. These postures, such as plank, Phalakasana, low plank, Chaturanga Dandasana, knees, chest, chin, things like this are very good for building the core, which is very important for spinal health. You're only as young as your spine is flexible. So keeping that core strong to support the spine is very important. But again, do the best you can for your class that day, wherever your body is. Breathe. Follow the breath. Return to the breath. Any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Be happy to answer. Namaste.